Order the Hanover Selectboard meeting for September 9th, 2024, 7 p.m. Nick, you ready to go? Nico, nice to see you. Welcome back to Hanover. So we will begin with a public hearing to review and approve the amended Town of Hanover ethics policy.
I apologize, sorry.
So we will now move into public hearing. And the ethics policy was circulated at the last two select board meetings. But let's just take a look at it here. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, so basically, for those who have not watched the other two meetings, the code basically boils down to no conflicts of interest, a duty to recuse, a duty to disclose, no unfair personal use of town property, no misuse of confidential information, no improper gifts, fair and equal treatment. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell. This was originally adopted in 2016. It was revised on August 19th, the last select board meeting. And tonight we are moving to adopt it. And we actually have it in the select board signature folder for signing. So upon adoption, I will send it around and we will adopt it. But are there any select board members who have any comments they would like to make at this time before we open it to the public for comments or questions? No? Okay. Seeing none, thank you all for your work on this. Any questions or comments from the public with respect to the ethics policy? Okay. Yes, so, well, we are going to have, later in the agenda, we will have formal public comment section.
So, excuse me, so David, did you want to speak during the public comment for the ethics? Yes. Now's the time to do it.
For the ethics policy?
Did you want to, so you will have two opportunities. You could speak now if you would like, or the public comment period is coming up.
During the public comment period, I guess.
Okay, all right, very good. So seeing no public comments on the ethics policy, we will need a motion to adopt.
I move that.
Yes, and there is a suggested motion language.
Okay.
Town report.
I move to approve the amended Town of Hanover ethics policy. I like having these pre-built.
I'll second that motion.
Joanna
Really,
seconds.
I've been doing this for decades and it makes it so much easier, Rob.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. We will now close the public hearing. Agenda review, are there any items on the agenda for which select board members might like to change the order? Yes?
I'd just like to pull the Hanover Bike Walk appointments from the consent agenda because they're just a little off.
Okay, so we'll pull that out and address that separately and discuss it at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? No. Okay, thank you for that. Announcements recognition, I don't believe we have any this meeting. Public comment. This is the period of the agenda when the public is welcome to address the select board. We ask that one addresses issues not already scheduled on the agenda. We ask that individuals restrict their comments to 5 minutes. Questions will be directed to the chair of the select board. So now is your opportunity for that. Did you want to, David, did you have comments?
I'd like to just hand out this sheet, which is the Article 8 of the New Hampshire Constitution. I passed out to most of you before. It doesn't seem like anybody read it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
My name is David Vinceletta. I live at 93 Lebanon Street. Article 8 of the New Hampshire Constitution I'm gonna read it out loud into the record. Accountability of magistrates and officers. Public's right to know. All power residing originally in and being derived from the people. All the magistrates and officers of government are their substitutes and agents, and at all times accountable to them. Government therefore should be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive. To that end, the public's right of access to governmental proceedings and records shall not be unreasonably restricted. No. I've been coming here for 19 years. First, I was asking about the asphalt waste being dumped into our water supply. And I've been asking who authorized the dumping of asphalt waste on town's rural roads. And I didn't get anywhere. I also asked who was allowed to place their asphalt waste in Hanover's stockpile. Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, Mary Hitchcock Memorial Hospital, Dartmouth College, L&M Construction, MAVA, and others, I believe, dumped for approximately 20 years on town roads, were finally stopped by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. And I went and looked at the personnel policy manual today after talking with Mr. Houseman on page 40, which still has the Dartmouth Indian on it, which is interesting. These are reasons for disciplinary action of town employees. Violation of town ordinances or state or federal laws, which I've been telling you for 8 years have been violated. Conduct including speech that physically harms or threatens others, or that is abusive to or disrespectful of other employees, contractors, citizens, or other persons involved with the town. Now, my family was put in physical danger with no fire or police protection for 25.5 months while we waited for somebody to open our driveway. Number 9, discrimination or unlawful harassment or retaliation. In my case, blacks, Jews, veterans, disabled, and homeless people were put into a concentration camp around us. Number 12, failure to act in a professional and cooperative manner while carrying out job duties. 14, unsafe conduct at work, including but not limited to fighting or starting a disturbance on the premises, or while performing job duties and or violating safety rules or practices, or creating or contributing to unhealthy or unsanitary conditions. Now, we had no water for 2 years while we waited for the driveway to be open so we could get our pump fixed. In addition, we couldn't do trash removal, so we lived in unsanitary conditions. Now, it would only take a few questions being answered by town officers who are supposed to be accountable to put this to rest. For some reason, y'all don't want to answer questions. I would like to ask Robert Houseman some questions about his actions. He's the town manager now. He's put a fence around our property 8 years ago, and still he's being promoted despite the fact that he's committed these crimes. There's 13 other people in the town offices. Athos Racius, Joanna Whitcomb, Julia Griffin, Nancy Carter, Bill, I can't remember his last name. The heads of the 4 departments, police, fire, public works, and Mr. Houseman's office, and officers below them. Now, the question really is pretty simple. Did you fence over my driveway for 25.5 months, beginning November 9th, 2016?
Okay, so questions are directed.
Yeah, I told you I'm trying to get him to answer.
I understand.
He's supposed to be responsive. At all times, you're supposed to be accountable to the public. He needs to answer questions.
this is not a court proceeding. I understand you have repeatedly asked a number of these questions over a period of years. There is a history of litigation, et cetera.
I was freed from prison. 25 and a half months I was freed by a court. That's the only legal thing involving this covering of our property and putting a fence around us. And I was found to have the right to have my driveway back, which I've had for 40 years. Mr. Houseman took that away from me in a sick manner. He's supposed to be failure to act in a professional manner and cooperative manner while carrying out job duties. Mr. Houseman,
David, I understand your frustration. Your 5 minutes are up. So let me think about an alternative way to give you.
there's no alternative way. He needs to be responsive to questions. And I've asked you, and you're stonewalling too. This is bullshit.
Rob.
I'm happy to prepare a written statement for the board's consideration.
Okay.
You're going to answer questions.
You and I spoke today,
Yeah?
and I answered your questions
No,
today.
you didn't.
And we'll answer to this. I'll provide the select board a written response to the statements that were just made.
Okay.
I have some more questions.
David, you're in about 6 minutes in. Okay. Rob, time for your report.
Thank you. Bear with me a moment while I get organized. I apologize. I was not prepared for that. So, town manager's report. I want to touch on the August 20th listening session that was held regarding the May 1st event. The feedback I've received to date is that it was well received by the community and greatly appreciated. There is a video on the town select board page and an opportunity to give additional feedback until September 30th. So please make sure that if you have the desire to give comments, do so through that format. In addition, I spoke with the coordinator of the White House and Intergovernmental Affairs Office, and they provided me with a campus safety resource guide as a tool to help calm stressful situations in campus protests and gatherings, and they are offered to help in any way possible.
Rob, they reached out to the town, is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah, just to
Yeah.
be clear that the select board didn't say, hey, call the White House.
Absolutely
Okay,
correct.
I just wanted to be clear.
We are a town that hosts a college, and I think they were doing their due diligence and trying to make sure there was support provided to all town supporting colleges. The interim town manager meet and greets. As you know, I've been meeting with all the departments and as many boards as possible, have been well received. The only group left to meet with is the Howe Library, and we're scheduled to meet next week. It's been enlightening and helpful to get appreciation of what people's concerns are, employees' concerns are. It's also helpful and enlightening to learn more about the town that I work in and live in. I did not know the Hanover Library in Etna had a spice library or a seed library or an international snack of the month for young tweens, if you will. So they're doing some pretty creative things at the library and fun to learn about. All of that's gone well. Fire, going down through the departments. Fire, Dan Hurtley has completed his first 1-year probationary period. The department is hiring a new firefighter, and the position was closed on August 30th. We have 17 candidates. Promotions are on schedule. Internal promotions are being considered at this time for a captain's position created by Josh Merriam, moving up the ladder to deputy chief, and assuming that we'll have a lieutenant moving to captain, we'll have a new lieutenant position, so we're doing both testing, MRI testing at the same time, hoping to have an internal promotion shortly. We've had training completed by 2 firefighters regarding trench rescue and confined space rescue programs. A total of 56 hours of training, all funded by grant money. And also a firefighter for Ferraria finished his Bachelor of Science degree in Fire and Emergency Services and Emergency Management. Project that's in the works with the fire department right now is they're putting into service a new side-by-side off-road vehicle. It's slightly larger than the current one we have. It'll be used for carrying the forestry pump equipment into brush fires, and can also be used to do wilderness rescues because it can carry a Stokes litter on the side on the vehicle. Policing, we have 3 sworn officer vacancies in the department. They were going through a process for recruitment and had 5 entry-level applicants. Unfortunately, all 5 canceled before moving forward in the process. That process is still ongoing. Communications is short 1 staff. They're typically fully staffed with 10 people, so they're at 90%. Parking, we thought we were back up to 100%, but lost a candidate shortly after accepting the position. No understanding why that happened. Outreach, the fire chief, Captain Martin, and Lieutenant Shibola met with the new vice president of senior vice president of governmental affairs, Jennifer Rosales, and Justin Anderson at Hanover PD. The meeting was prompted by the college to meet and greet, and it was well received. National accreditation, and we're finishing up our first year remote evaluation, and it's moving forward. We expect to have it wrapped up by the end of October, and moving into our next phase. It's a 4-year certification, so this is year 1 that we're completing, and this is sort of the remote audit process that they undertake. The Etna Library recently included its busiest summer of programming ever, the busiest ever of summer programming with an ice skate party. 75 people were in attendance at the party. Over 500 prizes donated by local businesses were awarded patrons who participated in the summer reading program. In total, over 400 people attended summer events at the Etna Library. With school starting back up, the 3 after-school programs will soon return. The Lego Club, the after-school arts program, and the Universal Yums Club, which is the international snack club. And what's neat about that, as a sidebar, is they actually discuss where the snacks are from and learn about the country of origin.
Nice.
Is it open to?
Non-tweens.
I like the after-school idea. Non-tweens.
Public Works, Michael Timlake has been hired as a new utility technician, came from Kendall of Hanover. Jim Craze promoted to highway and utility superintendent. Chris Berry was promoted to highway supervisor. You should note that Jim Craze's position has been restructured, so he's taken on more administrative duties that would typically fall to the highway supervisor. So giving the highway supervisor more freedom to be in the field working and staying on top of issues. Dan Morency was promoted to senior heavy equipment operator. Dan will assist Chris enact in Chris's role and to help train employees. Leah Lucas has joined the Public Works Department as the administrative assistant. She replaces Adrian Kudamarsh, who's been promoted. So Leah is the first point of contact for us and manages payroll and assistant asset management, permits, and record keeping for the office. The engineering interns are still present in the office, working on the EPA compliance program for lead in our system. We did have two interns who've returned to college. One, Trider Kobaki, Pete's third son, and I'm going to botch this name, so bear with me. Jackson Moskawenko returned to college also. And we have 5 light and heavy duty operator vacancies in the police department, in the Public Works Department, a utility supervisor vacancy and an assistant utility supervisor vacancy. We have training underway that have been completed. Riley Davis has completed the state vehicle inspection training. Albert Vaness, chief operator and industrial pretreatment coordinator, completed the hazardous waste coordinator certification training, and the fleet mechanics trained on the upgraded fleet software shop floor. Projects. Pete Kobaki, your Public Works Director, continues to serve as a member of CPC&H Board of Directors. That's the clean energy program that was helped launch by Hanover and that actually provides us with our power, electric power for our community. And what's impressive is to see that it started up, offering power to customers in April 2023, and is expected to have an annual revenue in 24 of $87 million. College Street rebuild, I was on it today. There are some issues that are impacting our completion of the project. Today, the rapid flashing beacon crossing in front of Dart Hall is being installed, and the road is set. Will be ready for open hopefully next week, with the expectation that we'll need to come back, set curb, and put the wear course down, the finished course of painting next spring, because we have just run out of time. We can't get the contractors here to do the work.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
I noticed that on Lebanon Street as well, we're using stainless steel for our rapid flashing beacons. That's not kind of what we've done in other locations, like these stainless steel shiny posts versus the black posts.
So,
And I imagine it's a cost-saving measure, but it's noticeably less attractive. And so I'm just putting it out there as something that we should just look at in terms of what our standards are. So I can take it up with Pete, but I did.
no, I didn't. I noticed that I thought they were brushed aluminum. The poles.
Well, maybe I have no idea what they are. They're silver versus black.
Will College Street be marked?
Yes, it'll be temporarily painted and marked. If you go out there today, you'll see that it's been pre-marked on the ground to show the right-hand shoulder or parking area, after our parking area, the travel lane, the 3-foot protection barrier lane, and then the 5-foot bike, contraflow bike lane are already marked.
Yeah, and is there a plan in the future to differentiate that parking lane the way, or in some manner?
In accordance with the plan that was conceived, I'm not sure I have an answer for you today.
Sorry, just one more thing. And I imagine the viewing public are on the edge of their seats. So when will the street open?
I think we're shooting for the 15th. It's right now. It's tied to the work that's being done at the intersection.
So Sunday? Is that a Sunday? Yeah. Yeah.
6 days from now? Yeah, Sunday.
Before the 15th.
Because all the students, second, third, and fourth year move in on Saturday and Sunday.
So it's tied to the work being done for the college at the intersection, and we can't open the street until that's finished. And we're pushing to get that done.
Great. Thanks. So soon.
Soon as possible.
That was my question.
That was your question too?
So yes, it was.
Sorry.
No, quite all right.
I'll touch on a couple of others with Public Works. They've got an extensive list in the report. Allen Street, some minor work to replace a collapsed catch basin. Top coat and wear coat on Summer Street was finished this August. Annual paving scheduled for Verona, Highland, Willow Springs, Butternut, Wren, and Meadow will begin shortly. That'll include East Wheelock from Park to Trescott, Curtis, Woodmore, Bridgman, and Dresden. And as time allows and budget, Rudsboro Road from Morgan to about 1,500 feet from the 3-mile road intersection, which is already overlaid the previous year. Our LED utility light replacements have been 96% have been changed out. They've met with the Department of Energy on the BABA requirements, which is built in and made in America requirement. And most of the material that we're being forced to use is not available through the American Buy program. So we're trying to get a waiver. The time extension for this waiver has been granted. We're working on retrofit on Maine, Allen, Lebanon on our ornamental lights to bring them into LED programming. And work order and asset management software for staff is preparing to launch this new program, which is computerized maintenance management system to track all asset repairs, inventory, and assist in determining asset replacements. This is something that we've been working towards to computerize everything. Our fleet software analysis is up and running. Everyone's being trained on this, so this is exciting. And the Greensboro Road tank, for some of you who've seen work in the what looked like a laydown area or parking area on the Meekbrook Community Forest side of the street or the Meadow side, that was all to enable the project down our water tank up that access road. And that work has been completed.
Someone was having a party there.
So they stripped the tank and tested it, and then they recoated it to make sure that it meets our needs. In the meantime, Lebanon did provide that area of town with the high pressure water system because we couldn't provide it with the tank is what creates that pressure for us. And taking it offline required a reliance on Lebanon's water supply. We're developing a new water lighting policy to address how we manage the street lighting that we will now own. So it's a way to make sure that somebody doesn't come in and say, I'd like a street light here, or can you remove that one there? There'll be standards and guidelines in place so that there's a fair approach to how it's handled. And we have that in draft form, and staff are going to be meeting to review that to make sure that we have a handle on how it impacts the current system that we have in place.
I have a question about that, or just feedback that I've gotten from some people. I know everyone's very eager, so the whole system's online and they can make whatever requests. But like certain houses get like lights shining in their bedrooms.
Yep.
And in a previous community I was in, they would use glass paint to paint just that bit out. And I don't know if that's a consideration.
So I think what you're referring to is the old metal halide lights where you had this glass bowl that hung down and you would paint a portion of it. And these LED lights are flat and they have a shaped reflector that casts a certain light in a certain area based on how it's designed for that location. The solution may be a shield that would be mounted to the Cobra head itself, or the light head itself, so that it would hang down and just block the light. We didn't install any new lights, but the nature of the light, because it's how it's mounted, might impact the property differently.
Yeah, I think it's like when a property's up a hill from a light, sometimes it.
Yeah.
Shades.
Yeah, shades.
That's what I do in my house.
Shades.
Shades. It's way more affordable for the town.
And I did want to make a note of the listening session in the select board packet. I did have all the notes that were taken by topic, so I had them rearranged by topic so that you could look at them in hopefully in a clear and concise way. Any questions for me?
Some comments for sure. Go ahead.
Just a question on your reports on staffing. Yeah, it seems like it's like a chronic issue in both public works and police of not being able to fill their table of organization or their defined staffing level. My first question is, what are the effects of that? I'm sure people are getting overtime, and is there burnout occurring, and are there other follow-on effects that are resulting from some of those staffing issues?
Sure. Great question. I think I can answer parts of that.
Okay.
The town has what's known as a critical shortage pay program, so that not only if there are a certain number of vacancies, police, fire, public works, for example, get critical pay bump if they're doing work that's above and beyond and covering open positions. And I think we're at critical pay in police and public works currently. There is increase in overtime. The biggest impact in police will be the winter time. If we don't have coverage and can't come up with a solution, we'll see a change in the way our roads are maintained during a snow event. We'll see a shift perhaps in slower route clearance. There are solutions. Some of them may require third-party contractors where we hire out certain things. That triggers a conversation about our union contracts, because there are certain stipulations within it that may come into play. At this time, I've been really impressed with the new staff, and I'm really pleased to see younger people at Public Works. We've hired 3 20-somethings looking really to stay in the field. So that's exciting from my perspective, because we have a block of people who've worked for this town many years, and we're grateful for and appreciative of their longevity. But we haven't really seen that younger group cycle in. The challenge for us in an economy that's this hot is that the private sector can outcompete us. Sooner or later, the economy may slow down, and then we'll become attractive again, because we offer benefits in ways that most private sector jobs don't. The police question, I don't have a good answer for you. I can tell you that communities are offering sign-on bonuses that make ours look tiny. Lebanon, I think, offers a sign-on bonus of $30,000. That's fine.
Oh, you're already on.
I think that particular, I don't think that's healthy for any department to try to address, in the sense that it creates potential tension for those who've been hired without the sign-on bonus. And also, there needs to be some way to ensure that the persons who are hired with those bonuses stay for an expected period of time.
Sure.
and not use this as a training ground to move on to someplace else. So it's a complicated issue. Police in particular, given everything, is not. It's a challenging place to fill positions. It's a struggle, and I appreciate the work that they do, and know that we need to find a path forward. But we have great officers who come in and enjoy the community, I hope, and figure out how to navigate all of this. So we're working on it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So thank you for the summaries on the listening session. I did note in your town manager report that you indicated the website and additional comments are up and running until September 30 or 20. I wasn't.
30.
I extended it to the 30th because it would allow the Dartmouth community to have more access in the sense that, you know, the college students don't come back in full until the 14th and 15th, and to close it 5 days later might be short-sighted.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. Thank you for that, and thank you for the extensive discussion around staffing, new hires, training accomplishments. That's all that really helps to bring things to life for the select board. So we appreciate that, and we look forward to meeting some of these folks when we are out in the next few weeks visiting various departments. And I thank you also for your help there.
Carrie did the heavy lift, but we're excited to get you into these facilities so you can see
I need
what.
like a summary. I need like a summary sheet of when we're going where.
Okay.
Because
We
I
can produce that.
Does it bounce around a little?
Well, I'll just reach out to Carrie. She'll keep me on track. It just seemed like there was you don't have to do that.
Right.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay.
We can
I got
send
it.
you in.
I got it. I got it.
Anything else?
Probably helpful. Anything else? Rob? No. No. Thank you. Thank
I
you very
really
much.
like the footnotes on your groupings up to the colors and the number. Very thorough.
Okay. So we turn now to business requiring discussion, the first item of which is,
Sorry, can I?
oh
can I
yes, I'm
pause?
sorry. Oh yeah.
I need to recognize Nancy.
Oh yes.
Nancy was she converted the post-it notes to text.
Nancy, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Nancy.
I do need to recognize, I'm sorry for missing.
Thank you. Thank you. And actually, Nico, I feel as though you maybe wanted to make a comment earlier, and is this a good time for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to come up to the
Sure.
table?
A couple things. These are some letters that the bike walk committee sent to the select board today, but I guess maybe Jenny can talk about them during like that section, but here are the letters for each of you. Here we go.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Are you still on bike walk?
Until you appoint my replacement, which is what I'm about to request you do.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Hello, friends. I'm Nicholas Macri. Believe it or not, all the involvement that I've had, this is only the second select board meeting I've ever been to. The first select board meeting I went to was in March of 2021 when my friend David Millman and I asked that the election not be moved to when the majority of students were absent during the summer. And now at the end of my college, I'm here to ask that you appoint my replacements. So it's a very full circle moment. So the bike walk committee voted in August to recommend some new people to be reappointed and others to be appointed, as I'm no longer going to continue to serve as a member because I plan to leave town in the next couple days. I've certainly enjoyed my time serving on the Bike Walk Committee and on the Capital Improvement Program Committee. We noticed that the consent agenda was incorrect, unfortunately, as to what we had requested. And so I just wrote out what we requested and would ask that the select board to make this appointment instead of what is on the consent agenda. So here, I'll just pass this out for you. So I figured it would be easier to write it down.
Oh, thank you.
But essentially, two current members Bill Young and Rob Hausman, indicated that they wanted to be reappointed, and then two current members decided to step down. So we have two new members that we are requesting to be appointed here, and then we're also requesting to appoint 3 alternates because we've had some quorum issues, and having more alternates is always helpful to make sure we always meet our quorum. Also, we have historically aligned the terms to all expire after town meeting, so we're requesting to keep that consistency. But yeah, basically the consent agenda was incorrect, and so this is what the committee would like to be appointed. So, thanks very much. I'm happy to note that should you go through with these appointments, there will be 4 students on the committee instead of the current 1. And I think it's a great thing that we've been able to find so many people willing and interested in participating and contributing to the town. So I think that's been a great success in the past 4 years, and I look forward to that continuing. So thank you.
Thank you, Nico.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Nancy, please.
Nancy.
Please, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, yes.
It'll take me faster than walk up here. Nancy Carter, Barrett Road, Hanover. Before he actually leaves the floor, I would just like to commend Nico's work to the select board and note that he's leaving Hanover, I mean, really leaving Hanover in like 48 hours, if I'm correct. And I just wanted us all to appreciate that Nico represents the best of what we can think of as our partnership with college students, and that he's a good example for us of, opening our arms. I know that many of us have been hesitant about the quarter system causing, and the academic demands, causing us to sort of put the college students at arm's length, thinking that they perhaps wouldn't be serious enough. But Nico certainly has, and as I say, represents what's really beneficial to us. Those of us on the planning board have seen a lot more of him as he's been helping us with amendments to the planning board and all of our planning ordinances. So just to let you know, it is possible if you find the right people for the college students to be a part of our governing bodies.
Thank you, Nancy. And yeah, I'll just add that Nico, notwithstanding the fact he was sometimes on the other end of the world, found a way to participate in meetings. He was always very diligent in his work. So Nico, you were an inspiration for the rest of us. Thank you. So do you want to share where are you headed? Anywhere?
Well,
To be determined.
He's on TV.
You're on TV.
You don't
Okay.
have to do
Yeah,
that.
you don't have to disclose.
It hasn't been confirmed yet,
Yes.
but hopefully will be very soon, and I'll be happy to share it once it happens.
Please do. Thank you, Nico. All right, terrific.
But thank you.
Okay, so let's now move on to business requiring discussion. The first of which is assessing department overview and overview of MS1. So Norm, welcome. And I don't know, did Rob share with you that you are to some extent a little bit of a guinea pig here in the sense that, yeah, I can see you look frowning. In the sense that it's the intention that we go through and have various departments come to select board meetings to talk about what their department does, and also to help us sort of think about ways we can support your work and ways we can also think about what constitutes great work, what needs more support, et cetera. So.
Well, the same, Norm Bernays, Director of Assessing, being a boring department is probably a good way to start, but then when it's exciting, it's very exciting.
Okay.
Usually coming from the taxpayers. But just a little background about myself. I've been in the business for 41 years now. I got out of college in 1983 and started working in the assessing field at that point. Been a director in Claremont for 3 years, 12 and a half years in Lebanon, 15 years on Lake Centipede, and now 4 years here, just like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So my staff includes Jerry Roberts, who's sort of, I'd say, somewhat green at this. He's now attained the assistant assessor level. There's like 4 certification levels in the assessing field that are overseen by the Office of Licensing, State Licensing. And we have to be licensed and certified to do what we do. And there's certain levels, you can only do so many things with the certification that you have. Jerry's at the 2nd level right now in just about 2 years' time. He's also a licensed real estate broker and a building home inspector, both licensed in Vermont and New Hampshire. The idea is to get Jerry more training and more experience. His primary duties, well, let me back up a little bit. My primary duties is valuation, overseeing the exemptions, both charitable, religious, educational, which, we Dan Jasinski and I get together every year, talk about all the properties that Dartmouth has and what's taxable and what's not taxable. So that list changes from time to time depending on the use. An example of that is Courier, the Courier office building, during the renovations over here, some of the music department or art department, some of those were occupied by departments that legitimately would get an exemption, and other times they're not. So we go through this every year. We deal with veterans credits, make sure that they qualify. They got a honorable discharge, that they met the criteria of time of service, so on and so forth. And we deal with solar exemptions and other types of exemptions. We deal with the building permits. Jerry and I both go out and do those in the spring. It's kind of a crunch time. Our crunch times are in the spring. And right up to September 1st is when we do our state reporting, and one of the reasons why we're here tonight is to sign the annual reporting that, and ultimately is a calculation that goes into setting of our tax rate. And we verify all the sales that happen in the community every year. When a sale happens on a monthly basis, we get those sales. We send out sales letters, sales questionnaires. We get a pretty fair amount back. We ask for an appointment to go and inspect the property, because when you're dealing with sales, it's the time of the sale and the condition of the property or the status of the property at that time is where we want that to be our control group. And if you're looking at a sale 6 months after it happened and things changed, or it happened, or the things changed right before the sale, and that produced a higher sale price, you want to know those things. So that's what we try to be right on the ball in terms of when something sells. Reach out to the taxpayer, educate them. Part of our job is to educate the taxpayer. We deal with appeals. One of the things that when I got here, in 2018, there was 298 abatement applications. That was the revaluation that went very bad. There was 20 cases from that went to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals, and then 67 Superior Court cases. Cost the town a lot of money. in legal fees and expert fees and
Time.
abatements and time. A lot of stress, and a lot of stress for taxpayers, a lot of stress for staff and everyone else. 2019, there were 81 abatements, 30 of them were repeat. One went to the BTLA and 14 were Superior Court cases, but those 67 were still being litigated because they didn't actually get heard or settled until I got here in 2020, which is March 2020. 2021, the revaluation, here's a little difference. We had 62 abatement applications when we did the revaluation in 21 versus 298 for 2018. We had 5 BTLA cases, 2 of them dropped out once we convinced them that they probably didn't have a case. Actually had to convince a couple of lawyers. No Superior Court cases. And to date, the last 2 years, we've had approximately 8 abatement applications. A couple of them were repeats. As of today, we have 2 Superior Court cases from a recent abatement and 1 Board of Tax and Land Appeals case, which is a repeat. So that's a big part of the work that we do. There's 2 roles here. In I think it was in the early 1930s, the town adopted, a town meeting adopted under New Hampshire law, you could have a advisory board of assessors. So the select board kind of gave some of that authority to the advisory board to hear appeals and make recommendations to the board of selectmen, the select board, because under the statute, you are the authority. The only way to change that is to go to town meeting and adopt not an advisory board, but a board of assessors. Like in Lebanon, they have a board of assessors. It's a little easier with the city charter. They can just adopt that, through many public hearings. But in a town, you have to adopt it through town meeting process. So they make those recommendations to the. First of all, the appeals come in. I make recommendations to the advisory board. They deliberate the issues, make decisions, and then we pass those on to the board of the select board to finalize those abatement requests and those appeals and the exemptions and the what happened. The history of Hanover is the assessor used to deal with signing exemptions and credits and some of the charitable, religious, and educational. That's really the role, statutorily, it's the role of a select board to do that, because it's not, I'm actually if I do that, I'm violating my responsibilities, the level of my responsibility. So it has to come to the board. So in the last few years, you've seen sort of that role change. You really didn't get involved in it that much, but it is your ultimate authority, and that's what you need to deal with. And with that said, if you, as the board, feel that you need to do something different than what I recommended, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Just so you know that, it's just your job to do what you do, and and if you decide for a lower assessment, I can always defend a lower assessment than what I recommended. The danger there is that you set a precedent, and you have to look beyond that one case and say, what is that going to affect down the road, and what kind of precedent, what kind of domino effect could that break? So that's what I caution you on decisions when you do that.
Hey, Norm, could I just jump in for
Yeah.
1 second? So having lived under the Lebanon Board of Assessors as opposed to the Advisory Board of Assessors, is there really a difference there? And if so, help us appreciate what the differences might be.
Well, the statutory responsibility would go to the Board of Assessors rather than the Select Board. And that was a big issue when Dartmouth Hitchcock, we had the appeal, but Dartmouth Hitchcock, the board, decided that they were gonna tax them. We had that case back in 2000. And I said, hold on a minute, I could read the room, and I said, we might want to think about, what we're saying here, and we need to have a sound reason for doing so. So we got a legal opinion, went to the city council, got some budget money to get a formal legal opinion. The legal opinion said we should tax it. We did, we made litigation, and finally there was an agreement there that has just been renewed, I think, the last couple of years. So it sort of stopped the bleeding of the, we'll call it the 10,000 pound gorilla, kind of, that's always been the way I described it. But so that's the ability. I was in Keene for a short stint, and the city assessor there, the way they established it was the city assessor was the chairman of the board. But then, there were other voting members but I don't think we have that option here in terms of statutory, the way statutes are aligned.
I have heard that if you don't have enough volunteers for your board of assessors, it ends up back at city council, and there are nearby towns that are struggling right now. They can't get a quorum. So we at least have, our advisory board is a 5-member board, and people are pretty good about coming.
Yeah, and I think that that goes to the leadership of the department, and what they have is they have a contractor that comes in a couple days a week. I could appreciate that Hanover supports a full-time staff here, because it's very important. Things can go wrong very fast, and it can cost the town a lot of money, or it could leave a lot of money on the table in terms of the assessments being correct. But I don't know how they do it with a lighter staff, because I was there for 12 and a half years, and it was a full-time job with a staff of 3 or 4 at that point. So, but yeah, we seem to, if you have good leadership, I think you can bring the people in and allow them to stay, for helping you out in the process of the recommendations to the select board. And Sue Gerard has been here for 30 years. She is just a godsend. She knows everything about, she knows where all the bones are buried, so to speak. And I really rely on her heavily for her knowledge, and she's just a rock in the department. So I really like to recognize that. She didn't want to be recognized for her 30 years. Didn't even want to go out to lunch. So, but she is willing to help the other folks in town hall. She helps Carrie, I believe, and she works well with Beth and the other side of the building, tax collection, town clerking. In fact, she was certified as a registration agent for many years for the town. So she's a justice of the peace and a notary, so that she's always busy doing that kind of stuff, and gets to meet a lot of different people, but I can't say enough good things about her. Just a few statistics. We have 3,582 parcels, which doesn't seem like a lot of parcels, but they're very high value parcels. And before I got here, we had like 3,300, 3,200 and something. What we did was to streamline the building department. The Dartmouth process was to take the individual buildings on a parcel of land that Dartmouth owned that was like 22 buildings, and we identified them separately, so we increased our parcel count, but they're all their own buildings. Now, it's not fair to say we have 3,300 parcels, but a lot of them have 22 buildings on them, or 30 buildings, so I think it's a more fair representation of what we're actually dealing with here. The total value of the town is right now is $4,230 $1,843,000 and change. Of that, the taxable value is $2,741,198 and change. That's 65% of the total tax base. 35% is exempt or non-taxable, and that primarily, with the buildings that Dartmouth owns. I think the only town that rivals that or community is Concord, the state capital. They have a lot of facilities there that have tax exempt property. The median residential sale price of 2023 ratio study was $1,105,000. I'm guessing it's going to be a little higher in 2023 and 24. The assessment ratio in 2023 was 72%, meaning a property assessed at $720,000 on the average sold for $1 million. So that's the quick way to figure out if you want to take your assessment and divide it by the ratio of 72%. You would come up with a average or median market value of your property. With the market being so undisciplined in the last 2 to 3 years, it's that number could be different. It really has been. I've been in this business so long, and I've never seen anything like. You have either sight unseen, or you have people with blinders on. You have we have the highest amount of cash sales in the state in terms of I think we're in the 80-85% we were in the last few years. Before that, it was 45 to 50. The state is 25%. So
85% of the sales.
Over cash sales,
85th percentile or 85% are cash?
85% of sales cash. So you have no appraisals. So meaning undisciplined, you have no appraisals, you have no bank involvement, you have no home inspection involvement. So you have, you can have a lot of buyer's remorse. I just did a house the other day, and he bought it for $2.6 million, and he had an engineer, a structural engineer, and an architect there, and he wasn't sure what he was going to do. In other words, was he going to fix it, sell it, or tear it down? So maybe he'll be seeing Robin in a while. So, you would think you'd know a little more, going into that kind of situation, but it sort of is what it is. The assessment ratio for 2024 I'm working on right now, that's due, that goes from 10/1/23 to 9/30/24, so we're waiting for the rest of the sales. I've got everything up to date from the middle of August, so once we get the rest of the sales through the rest of August and September, I'll put those into the state system. They verify what we do. We're only looking at arm's length transactions. If I try to throw a sale out, they question that. If I don't have valid reasons for doing that, they question that. It goes back into the study. If I change an assessment from one year to the next, they question that. It's got to be a valid reason. There's only several reasons you can, or a few reasons really, you can change an assessment and have it be valid in the sales ratio study. Our next constitutionally mandated reval is in 2026. I'm suggesting with the market conditions that we move that up to next year. The beauty about having my skills here is that when I took the job, I told the select board at the time and Julia and some of the advisory board members that they were asking if we had they would have to hire a consultant. I said, I am your consultant. I am the evaluator, I'm the administrator, the evaluator, and the litigator. So I play all three roles. And if you can't, defend your own work, what are you here for? So a lot of communities hire that phase out. They just have an administrator, and then they hire out what you get, what you pay for. In that instance. So I'm expecting that we're going to move the assessment year up to 2025. I think it will give Jerry some good experience. to go through something like that, because it's not always easy, but you really need to experience that and get your war wounds, so to speak.
Given the ratio, aren't we somewhat required to do that, given that we're in the 70s versus?
We're not like Vermont. We're required to do it every 5 years
So
by
it's
the
not a-
Constitution.
Okay.
But when we do the revaluation, you gotta fall between 90 and 110%. So you wanna be, when you do that revaluation, the year you're required to do it, you're required to be between 90 and 110%, and other statistical measures that you're required to meet, which we met all those in 2021.
Right,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
now we're at 70, what did you say, 72%?
72%, and preliminarily up to the information I have in sort of on my side of the analysis, without being vetted by the state, we're at about 70%, which means we were at rapid, I mean, it was dropping like a rock
Yep.
because the market was going the other way. So I think we're finally reaching a more sensible point.
And it's 90, to be clear, it's 90 to 110% of market value, is it?
Correct.
That's right. And how do we know market value?
How do you know market value?
Well, I mean, how do we, okay, we need to be 90 to 110% of some number. How do we determine that number?
Well, that's based on the sales analysis that we do. We vet all the sales. We update the sales database. In other words, with the parameters that are current to today's market, the value of the land, the cost of the buildings, the observed depreciation that we analyze. So those are all the factors. So you would up your say if it was costing, we were costing out at 150 a square foot, it might be 220 a square foot. So you would adjust those numbers, and you would expect that when your analysis is done, that your ratio falls between 110%. Generally speaking, you're shooting for close to 100 as of the April 1st date, say 2025. But that's not the most important number. It's the coefficient of dispersion, which is a statistical measure of fairness, and the price-related differential, getting a little deep, but it's the relationship between high-priced properties and low-priced properties. You want those to be, near the same, and a number of 1 means you've accomplished that. And then you transfer to the non-sale properties when you finish your analysis, and you transfer all those parameters and all your analysis to the non-sale properties, and they should have performed similarly in that adjustment. In other words, if your sales went up 30% and your non-sales, all the properties didn't sell, only went up 20%, you got problems. Or if the non-sales went up 40%, they should be mirroring the sales that you've adjusted to attain market value for the whole community.
But it will be different oftentimes it's different based on locations and views and
different
like
types
all
of
the
properties.
factors that you're dealing with.
Yeah, different
So-
types of properties, right?
I think you had a question, but I want to come back to this reappraisal thing.
Jay?
Oh, well, along the lines of the reappraisal, did you want to speak to the commercial properties too, with regard to how the ratios?
Well, we have a mix of commercial properties that are, we have a smaller sector of downtown office space and some retail. Those generally remain strong, but our ratio is driven by the residential because they're the lion's share of the sales. But what I'm expecting that if we did a revaluation next year, that the commercials wouldn't go, that segment. The housing type, the larger commercial type, including the Dartmouth housing and other housing, I mean, we've had some sales recently, and because of the high rent demand, they're attaining a very high value. So those are gonna mirror or maybe exceed the quote single-family residential market. So I think we'd be in good shape because if you take out the commercial housing segment, our commercial base isn't that big. So it's a smaller segment of the total population.
So based on the recent sales that have gone on this year in terms of our multifamily commercial housing, that could be a driver for the properties, the multifamily housing that, hasn't been touched. So like, if large sales have happened, will that increase the value of those other commercial rentals, housing?
Similarly situated and I mean, we don't go out and say something sold for 13 million and praise that one for 13 million, ignore the ones that are just like it.
Right,
We would apply those same parameters
Yep.
and those same adjustments to all the non-sale properties.
So in terms of affordability for multifamily housing or apartments, we're gonna see a shift when with this reval.
Well, not really. Not really with the shift. There's going to be a small shift potentially, but the main area is the sort of the downtown commercial might see a break. Because it's going to be shifting more towards the
Multifamily.
and residential. Yeah. So
No, I have just a question on that. So the value of these large multifamily sales was based on a potential value in the future, which is based on a change in zoning, right? So West Wheelock, for example, now the West Wheelock district, much larger possibility to build and much higher value on property because you can fit a lot more houses.
yeah.
However, those sales happened at a time, or those houses haven't been built yet, those units haven't been built yet. So how is that going to affect, say, a downtown small business owner who owns this property and pays a ton of taxes already?
You'd probably see a reduction in the. What I'm saying is those drivers of the commercial residential market are gonna help the commercial downtown.
Unless you have apartments.
Correct.
Just because the value of the residential is going up higher, so it's going to absorb a larger part of the tax base.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But even single-family residential is also going to go up then.
Yeah.
The value of the property, but not necessarily your taxes. I mean, I think that's something that if we're going through this reval and based on sitting through that 298 abatement requests, I think it's really important that we start talking about that the reval is going to happen this year, that this is what a reval means, that this is what you can expect, because we didn't do a good job on that, and we sent that information out in 2018, as I recall, like almost after the fact, and it was a blow to a lot of people. And I think part of this work will be really important to use your staff and your advisory board of assessors and the select board to make sure we're communicating so our residents know that this is coming and that we're at 72% and that everything's going to go up, but that doesn't necessarily mean their tax bill is going to go up.
I've been I'll tell you this, I've been moonlighting in Enfield for 34 years. I've been a client of mine. I work there nights and weekends, and I have a great Sue over there that works really well. I don't even use maps over there, but I just finished the revaluation there for 2000. I did it in 19, I did it in 2024. The average increase was 1.8 times. So the metric there is if your assessment went up less than 1.8 times or went up more than 1.8 times, you would see a decrease or an increase based on that. The waterfront, which historically happens every time I've done it since the 2000s, has always gone up more than the non-waterfront properties, and they seem to be. So we didn't have the issue in 21, even after all the sour noise from 2018. I think we did pretty good with the public relations and the education, and I fully intend to do that. That makes your job so much easier, and you kind of feel like sometimes like you're you're predicting the future when you say this stuff, and then it actually happens. And, you feel like you told people what was going to happen, and it actually happened.
No, I'm not sure. I just want to reinforce what you're saying. I'm not sure some members of the board who are newer understand what you're talking about in terms of the emotions. Basically, we brought Norm on. We put him on, you can't even say the hot seat. We put him on like a burning seat with electricity flowing through it. And Norm straightened the ship. I don't know, you can use all the analogies you want, but really got things into the good place that we are right now. And I want to make sure that the board, Jenny, Carrie, Jared understand that Joanna, Nancy, and I lived through this with you. And it was a huge accomplishment on your part. Thank you very much.
So I told Peter and Bill when they were interviewing me that we could straighten this out. It's and I talked to a lot of folks, and I just let them know that they want to get into algorithms and all these things. I'm like, this isn't that complicated. You're really trying to make it a perfect science, and it can't be a perfect science because the market isn't perfect. And in fact, it's undisciplined sometimes. So you try, you've got to try to make the best of it. One other thing that's really important in my world is, I don't know if any of you mentioned it before, but the Power BI, the analytics on the assessing page. That's really some awesome stuff. I just updated it recently. It gets updated generally twice a year with new sales data, and it keeps the history of the old stuff, and it's just, the metrics on there are just insane. And you can sit there and I should do a video, and I should put it on the site also, how to use the Power BI. That might be helpful for people.
Like you did for the ArcGIS.
So
I think there was a similar video for the ArcGIS system.
yeah,
I think it'd be really helpful.
the RCIS.
The
GIS.
GIS.
Oh, GIS,
Yeah.
yeah. And I would do that again because it has been updated and there's some new tools. So I think that's a good tool. I did that for the realtors. We had, I think, 80 realtors on the Zoom meeting. We recorded it and had questions. And so how to use the tool, how to do a deep dive into it. Rod has done a great job bringing that tool to Hanover and use by the entire staff and the public. It's a pretty transparent tool. And the Power BI is, again, another transparent tool that helps out a lot. With that said, I don't really have anything else. I think that covers you enough.
So, question for you on the revaluation. What's this, since we only do this every 5 years, maybe 4 years this cycle, what's the statutory mechanism? Does the select board need to approve, or what's the process, and how quickly would you get going on it if?
Well, we work on it every day. We're always doing the background, look at everything, and we categorize everything in terms of whether it's a high-end new property, a high-end old property, whether it's condos. We're looking at those things, the variances that we would have to fix things. We kind of already know some of that, but we would be releasing values next summer, but we're already doing, the work of the sales and the data verification. We haven't gone through 1/5 of the property. That's the goal, but our data is pretty good overall. We're waiting for a report back from the Department of Revenue on the most recent data verification that we did. But it doesn't take an act of God to You know, I could come back to you and say, this is what we're proposing to do, here's the timeline. It's really no budgetary impact, because when I got hired, you know, we don't have to hire a company, we don't have to hire, you know, another consultant.
That was my question, because we had a special reserve fund last time, but now it sounds like we have our systems, we have you, we have this need for succession planning, and we have this need to deal with this market.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably the succession stuff is probably for another day, yeah, you know, we do everything in-house, the whole, the only thing we did was we contracted out for the Power BI, for the build of the Power BI. And I think I'm bugging him enough on things I like to see differently that he's really thinking about yearly user fees. Yeah, which is really fair, you know, for him. I was one of the first that used him to develop the analytics.
Is there anything on the MS1 that you would like to point out to us for people who don't look at MS1s often?
No, not really. Just our target. Well, when I was asked, I'm asked every year, and it's kind of, you don't know what might happen, what property might Dartmouth move around from a exempt to a taxable. So I had estimated, and I looked at some of the building permits. Some of the stuff, you know, Rock does a great job. They collect and they inspect a lot of things, and they collect the fees for different items, but they don't all necessarily relate to a dollar for dollar taxable value. For instance, Dartmouth has, you know, a lot of exempt property. It's got to be built right. Ryan spends a lot of time dealing with that, and but that doesn't always mean it's going to be subject to taxation. So we estimated 10 million. We ended up with 13,443,000. There was an abatement before you recently that I think dealt with almost 4 million. So we would have had a 17 million gain, but somehow with the review we missed the 200 Lebanon Street where their facilities are, where the Dartmouth facilities are. So there was, those have gone on the list as taxable, they're exempt, so that comes off. So that's really a $17 million gain if you look at it from that, of growth in the assessed value.
Okay. And then was there a rebate for prior years on that, or it's just a one?
Is there what?
Did that pertain to prior years as well, where it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trump's question, I think, is does Dartmouth College get a rebate automatically?
No. They got one for, well, they're just not going to get a bill on the second half bill for this year, because what we do is anything that changes in value, we send letters out to the taxpayer in the spring after the first bill, or at about the time of the first bill. So if there's any errors, we catch them before the second bill, so we eliminate the need to file, to have an abatement filed. It just gets adjusted on the second bill, which is a good practice to file a wait instead of waiting till the taxpayer finds out on their second bill that it's doubled and it's wrong, and then you're really kind of on the your balance sheets can be off a little bit. But the other thing I noticed was we have elderly exemptions is $1,284,000. That's about that's a $23,000 tax shift that goes to everyone else. So those are, when you give exemptions or credits, those are items, those are dollars that are shifted to other taxpayers. And there's one other thing, but not really that important. I think we had 18,000 acres of current use, over 18 lands in current use.
And that money is shifted to the rest of us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how current use works,
Well,
right?
yeah,
So
they're-
we all
it's
picked out the
assessment.
cost of it,
Yeah.
but it keeps our lens open. So.
Right. Just as another note, I'm on the State Current Use Advisory Board representing towns. And I've been doing that appointed by the governor for probably 25 years now. I did it at the city capacity and then back to the town capacity. And we're going to be at our annual conference in October now. I'll be doing a question and answer session on current use for the municipal association. So that'll be fun.
Okay, thank you, Norm. Other questions from Norm, comments, Rob?
The only thing I wanted to add was with this $3 million increase in the Senate potential value, you may want to know what it does to our tax rate. It'll reduce the tax rate by a penny per thousand. So the average home a home with an average price of $500,000 in Hanover would have a net decrease in the tax bill of $5 if this moves forward as projected.
So you said is it 3 million or 13 million?
It's a $3 million increase in the estimate that we use to build the budget on. So we estimated 10 million. We had 17 million minus the Trumbull Nelson, brings it to 13 million or $3 million increase in the estimate.
When I dealt with the mayor in Lebanon, he would say, well, we don't want to become a donor town like Hanover. So when they were building office buildings in Centera, or they were proposing something on 12A, then I had to say, I said, being a donor town is not a bad place to be. It's, and I just found that to be interesting. So, and I would explain to him that, in this case, $3 million divided by 2.7 billion is it's carried out a lot of digits, so not a big number.
So we have, in terms of payment in lieu of taxes, or is it a pilot program? We've got two, right, in this town. One is, well, it's the federal government, right? Or there are two of them that I read in the MS. And I know that in other communities, when there's a university in the town, there's often, in other states in particular, not so much in this state,
New York, Connecticut.
they have payment in lieu of taxes because they're completely exempt. So unlike in New Hampshire, universities,
Food service and beds are taxed.
food service and beds are taxed. So we actually,
Oh, room and board is not taxed at like Lovely or Yale?
in other states,
Right.
this is very unusual. So when I go to conferences and they're like, what? And I said, yeah, Dartmouth is the largest taxpayer in Hanover. It's roughly they pay roughly between 10 and 12% of the, the tax base, and they're like, what? Because in Durham,
Yeah, Durham is 100% exempt as a state-owned facility.
state-owned facilities.
But there is a pilot in lieu of taxes, and there's some UNH support, or at least there was when I was there. The UNH owned the fire station and paid 50% of all rolling stock expenses. So if we needed a new tower truck, the college picked up 50% of the
State
cost.
did, yeah.
Plus, for the most part, they can disregard zoning, I believe.
State universities
exempt.
are exempt. They're considered a governmental entity exempt from all local control.
Yeah, so they can build whatever they want to acre or whatever.
And they can compete with the downtown merchants with restaurants and stores. And they can have their own police department. Running radar and make arrests.
Okay, all right.
Well, I would say overall we're in good shape here.
Oh, so it's Hydro-Quebec, or no? Hydro is the other payment in lieu of taxes. So
Oh,
it's
yeah,
Department of Interior, and then we get some money
Yeah,
from
I
Great Height.
forgot about that one, yeah, that's just, the flowage rates.
Flowage
on
rates.
Connecticut. And, there's a statute that allows us to do that. They've been fighting, I was getting.
We're litigating from them for years, right?
Yeah, and, you know, we, in Lebanon and, Hartford, the dam was part in Hartford and part in Lebanon, so, it was a big taxpayer, but they kept improving it on the Hartford side, so the Lebanon portion, say it was, you know, always went down because they were making all the improvements on the Hartford side, so the.
Yeah, but New Hampshire owns the whole river, so I mean, I don't know about that. That seems weird.
Yeah, but they're building it in the part of the river that is that backside.
That high water part,
Yeah.
above the high water mark. or whatever,
Right. Exactly.
Thank you, Norm.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Laura, appreciate it. Thanks very
Exempt.
much.
Thank you.
Federal government is completely exempt. Yeah, Germans used to.
Okay, next on the agenda is follow-up of 91A court ruling relating to October 28th. So on this issue, the town of Hanover does not intend to appeal the decision at the present time. This is the one that relates to the Valley News right to know request with respect to the arrests on October 28th. These were the 10th arrests, I think, in front of Parkhurst. Right? So
Did we discuss that as a board?
no, but we had a determination from our lawyer, so that went around. So
I understand that.
Yeah.
Did we discuss that as a board? I mean, our council can tell us one thing, we either agree with it or disagree with it.
I did send something around saying that, and I think Rob was on this too, that unless there were any issues that anyone raised, we were not going to pursue on the advice of council.
I thought we were going to discuss that.
We were going to, and then we decided not to do 6:30 meeting on the back of that email.
But I think publicly, essentially the Valley News took the town to court. We can say this because it's public information.
Yeah.
Took the town to court and said, hey, we want all your files on the October 2nd. October, what day?
28th.
28th arrests. And the town was like, well, what exactly do you want? And we said, no. Valley News filed the right to know, 91A request. The court ruled against the town and said, not only do you have to give everything over to the Valley News, but you have to pay all legal fees, right? And we said, wait a minute, we just wanted to know what we needed to give them. I mean, this is Joanna's understanding of the situation. And so we asked for reassessment, right? Is that the right term? Reappraisal?
Reconsideration.
Reconsideration. And so the court reconsidered it and said, okay, you do need to release provide the information per Valley News request, but you don't have to pay legal fees. And so that's where we stand today. And so the choices that we have are we can say, well, okay, that's good. We don't have to pay the legal fees. And given the nature of the case, here are the files. Or we can say, no, we want to appeal the decision. Right? That's the choices that we have. Is that how you understand it too, Athos?
Yeah, that's not the issue.
What was the issue?
I mean, you just outlined it for the public.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And the issue is we should make a decision.
Right.
And I disagree with how I barely have time to catch up on emails. And I think that's an appropriate way to discuss things.
So,
Okay.
may I offer a suggestion?
Yep.
What I think is appropriate is to frame your statement in the form of a motion.
Yeah.
And allow the board to discuss that motion and then vote on it. That way it's an action of the board in the meeting. Is that fair?
Yeah, agreed.
Yes. Okay.
Sounds good.
The other alternative is to take it to non-public. We can also bring it to, we do not schedule non-public. No, okay. So then we do not have motion language, but let me just go a little bit more on background and then let's consider a motion. So So the, and this is in discussion with legal counsel this afternoon, that just the idea that this litigation really did serve an important purpose, which we were looking for clarity, as Joanna mentioned, on because the law here is not well defined in the opinion of our legal counsel. So we were looking for exactly what needed to be disclosed. And there is some precedent value, and I think in the narrow confines of this particular case, which is the way the order was directed, we're comfortable. We do continue to have some concerns about other ramifications and precedent for this, but in this particular construct, particular fact pattern, we feel comfortable moving forward. Or at least counsel's advice is to let this be. We are intending not to appeal the decision at the present time.
You can make a motion to that effect.
Sure, unless you would like to. Okay, so the motion would be that the town of Hanover intends not to appeal the decision on the 91A court ruling relating to the events of October 28th.
I think there was a suggested caveat.
At this time.
Okay.
At this time is the caveat, yes.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Wait, is there any discussion?
Sorry. Any discussion, sorry, discussion, yes. No. Questions from the public? No, Nancy, okay. All right, ready to call the question, the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, that's unanimous, all right. Thank you. Next item is to confirm select board election coverage. I think we are actually all set on that. We do have pro tems in place for tomorrow. Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, perhaps explain it to the viewing
Yes.
public, because it's atypical. We've never had to do this before, so
Yes.
I think it'd be good for people to understand what we've been asked to do.
Right, okay. So we have been asked to have 2 select board members or their appointed pro tem representatives tomorrow during the voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and that that select board members be present after 7 to process, tabulate, and sign the seals on the. Actually, we'd just be super.
All we do is we just sign.
Sign. Okay, sign.
We don't do any tabulation. We
Yes.
just sign it.
Sign.
As we close the boxes, we
Okay, just sign.
seal them and sign them, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we have to stay, I don't think we have to hang out from 7 until
No,
just
ready.
sign.
We just need to
You can
sign.
show up the second the signatures are ready.
Yeah, so if they finish counting at 9, we'll send a text around, or, I don't think we have to be
But
there
we
from
have to
7
be there
to
at
10.
7 to close the polling, just at 7 to open.
Open the poll.
Okay, so we're there at 7, and then I know we're kind of,
And
we're there for a little while, and then some of us can leave, and then some of us are coming back.
Yes, and so.
And then we come back third time potentially at
to sign.
whatever time at night
Sign,
to sign.
yeah.
in the past, like Bobby or Jeremy both text us
Okay.
before we're needed to sign at the end.
Are we saying we all need to be there at
Okay.
7?
In the
Or a
morning.
quorum?
They would like everyone,
They would like everyone, we've never done that before, like,
no,
ever.
ever.
Yes,
We
that's
did it at
that's
the
what
last election.
Jeremy's recommending.
Jeremy's recommending something, we don't necessarily need to follow it. It's okay.
Although I think this one actually might have been a change from Concord, if I read it
Is
right.
that true?
Yeah.
I don't know, Bobby sent an email around.
The checklist provided by the Attorney General's office takes note of the full select board being present. I think I provided you with the background information that 2010s, there was an AG determination that the New Hampshire Constitution has required that the select board be present in a quorum.
Right.
And Jeremy is encouraging the full board to be present.
But they do say selectmen, and we only have 3 selectmen. Just saying.
Right, so,
I think whoever can be there at 7, be there at 7 for opening of the polls, and if you can't be there at 7, you know, I think we have a quorum,
I
so.
think is the AG going to challenge us on this? Incredibly unlikely. The time when it's going to be really important is for the November election, where challenges could come out of the woodwork like crazy. I'm not saying we disobey what the AG is telling us. That would be inappropriate, and that's not what I'm saying. But I think it's subject to a little bit of interpretation as given the things that we're learning. So I agree with what Joanna just said. I think we need to be intensely careful for the November election and to ward off any ability for anyone to challenge this, because it's going to be a tight election. Hanover tends to vote a certain way, and other towns in the state tend to vote other ways. So it can be really dicey in November.
yes, agreed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm not sure that it's any solace, but I do know that one of your pro temp is going to be there at 6:45, in case, so that you can be a 4-person select board in pro temp if necessary.
Yes, thank you.
I know that individual.
Yeah, yes, and thank that individual for us.
Yep.
Are you paying that individual? Is he getting food or anything?
Yeah, he'll have coffee.
Yes.
We'll make sure he's plied with coffee and
Yeah,
donuts
thank you.
for that 6:45 call.
I will be there. I think Joanna's going to be there. So, I mean, we will have a
Quorum, for sure.
quorum, including pro tem. So, I guess for the others who can make it, then it's it's a short stay.
And you can get your voting done.
Get your voting done.
That is an advantage.
Yes, and encouraged to be there at 7 o'clock as well. And you all have various assignments that I think you're aware of during the course of the day. So it's going to work. All right, any other logistical things we should talk about there? Thanks to Bill. Rob, anything?
And
on
Deb.
that? Yes, Debbie too, yeah.
Nothing to add.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, all right, thank you. Okay, let's move to business requiring action. The first of which is review and approval of water sewer abatement at 2 Meadow Lane.
Can I motion? Is a motion?
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything we need to say on this?
I think the only comment is that the Public Works Department went through, verified that there was an error in the reading and is recommending that it be abated.
Okay.
And has corrected the deficiency in the meter.
Okay, thank you.
I move to approve the water sewer abatement for 2 Meadow Lane in the amount of $4,430.
Second? Jenny? No.
I'll second it.
Okay, Joanna seconds.
I thought you seconded it.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was the second with a question mark.
Oh.
Okay, yes, sorry, Joanna seconds. Any,
Yeah, I thought you were a second.
Any further comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, the consent agenda, we are taking out the appointments to
Bike walk.
So it is approval of the minutes of August 19th, donations to the Etna Library, dog warrant, election volunteers, waiver of conflict for interest for ambulance agreements. Any other items that select board
Health
members?
officer.
The health officer.
I'm sorry.
Deputy health officer, the first item.
All right, first item, yes, okay, thank you. Health officer. Any other items that select board members feel should be taken out of the consent agenda? No, okay, so it is items 1, part of 2, we're excluding Hanover Bike Walk, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there is a motion for that. in the packet, right?
Oh,
Got it, yeah.
I didn't prepare one.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda items of appointment for the health officer and the other items in the consent agenda, 2 through 5.
One.
One
Yep.
for the health officer and deputy health officer, but not the Hanover Bike Walk appointments.
No, the minutes is one.
Minutes is one. Oh, it's on the previous page.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll get you a motion from that one.
Yeah, so, yeah, one is approved.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I move that we approve the items and the consent agenda items 1, items 2 for the appointments for the health officer and deputy health officer, and items 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Karen,
Yes.
I do this every year, with respect to the dog warrant, I just love reading the names. So-
I think we should,
I'm
I
not
think
gonna
we
call-
should
don't
do it
call-
out loud.
No, don't call any out, that would be inappropriate, but yeah, it was the first thing I did, make sure that. Actually,
I was late this year. I did not see the mail the first time.
but the names are just,
Yeah, the names of the dogs, it's like one of my favorites. I agree with you about this.
Highlights of the year.
there's one I wish I really could call out, but I'm not going to.
Okay. Dogs and bears, easily.
Shine back.
Yes.
They're all good though.
No, they're all good dogs.
All right.
Can we nominate, can we appoint the Hanover Bike Walk Committee appointments that were read out previously by Nicholas Macri?
Yes, and what gives rise to the discrepancy?
I don't know.
Oh,
We sent over recommendations and they didn't match.
So this is what Greg wants?
Yeah,
And who are the other people on the bike walk committee?
sorry, what do you mean?
Like, who are the other members of the bike? These are just the ones that are up now and the
Oh,
other
who
people?
else?
Yeah,
Myself.
Yep.
Hugh Mellert, Scott Drysdale, Laura Ecker, and then, actually, we missed one, Kate, Hawkins is moving to alternate. So there is one more that Nico left off. So Kate Hawkins is currently a member, and she's moving to
so we should add
alternate.
Kate
Yeah,
Hawkins.
add Kate Hawkins to this list, expiring in 9 months. All our alternates are for 1 year.
You should make a motion, Jen.
and there are Dave Anderson's on there too, right?
And Dave Anderson, sorry.
And there are there's no one else.
We have 7, so I think that,
Okay.
It's the 7 voting members, but you have non-voting members.
yeah, and then we have other people who regularly come.
Awesome, great.
Um,
And I would know that if I could actually get there at 4 o'clock on Monday.
But some of them are not either
Up for renewal.
living in Hanover, so our new bylaws, you have to be in Hanover, and you also have to be a US citizen. Not everyone who comes is a US citizen.
Yep.
Does that come from the state?
Yes, it comes from the state. To serve on any committee, whether it's an advisory committee or board or elected official, you have to be a resident and a citizen.
Wait a minute, you actually have to be a resident.
Yeah,
I mean, a US citizen, you can't have a green card?
no, you have to be a citizen.
Wow.
We went to an HMA and asked them and double checked.
Yeah,
Because
that's
we had
crazy.
people who were very interested, but like Canada or another country, but alas.
Not sure all towns actually follow that rule. It's interesting.
Okay, so I make a motion to appoint Bill Young as a member expiring 6/27, Robert Hausman as a voting member expiring 6/27, Evan Garrison as a member expiring 6/27, Matthew Kim as a member expiring 6/25, Lydia Kramer as an alternate member expiring 6/25, Ray Ching Yu as an alternate member expiring 6/25, Aaron McKenna as an alternate member expiring 6/25, and Kate Hawkins as an alternate member expiring 6/25.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Terrific. We move on now to select board reports. Select board met for a retreat last Wednesday for 3 hours, 9 to 12. Thank you all who helped facilitate that, including Rob, who was there doing yeoman's work as well as participating. Also, let's see, Ellen and the select board. I think it was a productive conversation. We have captured some notes, we have captured some of the commentary, so we need to boil that down into goals, actionable goals, so that is work yet to be done. But that's coming. Any others want to add color to the retreat? Comments? Okay, all right. Committees.
The only one I have is downtown group. We met Thursday at Sawtooth. Productive meeting. We talked a lot about students returning and kind of what we've been seeing as trends, which I have mentioned in previous meetings that generally foot traffic is down in town, and that remains. We got some feedback on Allen Street from many of the business owners, all overwhelmingly positive. And what they've heard from their customers has been the same. And we discussed some of the data collection and things like that as we move forward to reevaluate what we'll be doing in the future. And finally, we have been talking for a while about formalizing and kind of next steps for the group, because I do a lot of the work and I'm getting tired, and I would like some others to pick up the slack and for some formalization, so these things don't just get done when I get through the rest of my to-do list. And Hanover Improvement Society is not going to take over any of that. They felt like it was too much for them. UVBA, however, has stepped up and given us some pretty good options for ways forward for them to really be a good resource for Hanover and fill in some of the gaps that this downtown group is actually filling right now. So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you. I attended my first Sustainable Hanover meeting on 8/28. They have a lot on their agenda. They have a compost workshop coming up. There was a lot of conversation about the yard sale, which has been going on for 15 years, run by the same amazing volunteer, Susan Edwards. For the past couple of years, she's tried to graciously train and bring a coordinator on or a new volunteer to manage it. And she told me in very gracious fashion that she will not be stepping up next year and would like to encourage the town to solicit someone to take her role or hire a temporary manager. It was a huge success, really well attended. A bunch of nonprofits actually bought, a parking space and were able to sell their goods and made some money. So there were lots of smiles all around. I guess the weather was good. I was out of town, but so that was successful. But I think it's something that I queried and said, if we do have an open position for the sustainability coordinator, would this be something this person could at least help organize? Because there's a fair amount of organization. There's a lot of people willing to volunteer, but you need one point person. And so I think there's hope there, but if there's anyone in the viewing public that would like to step up, it's a one-day event. It's super well organized.
It's very festive, very well attended, a lot of excitement and enthusiasm and fun.
And it serves a really important purpose. It's like repurposing materials. It's not sending it to landfill or sending it, overseas or, whatever. It's going back into the local economy. So it's one of, I think, a really great program. Anyway, there's a number of subcommittees. The energy subcommittee meets on the second Tuesday, so that's tomorrow, here in this office, in this room, from 1:30 to 3. And it's a full agenda, talking about energy and what's going on in that world. And then the next day, the trustees of trust funds met. We reviewed the MS9 and MS10 reports, which are things that basically it's how we manage our money during, as taxes come in and various reserve funds. And so the trustees of trust funds are the responsible entity to review them and make sure they're correct. Ellen Bullion was there and helped guide the committee. The select board member is the ex officio, so I just listen, and my job is to bring back information. So we did talk about the Bridgman Fund. We did identify the need to have somebody else besides Ellen, because she's going through all these financials. She can't really do minutes. And I said, well, I could do it. And then she said, oh, well, we have a new finance person. It would be really good for him to come in and learn what the trustees of trust funds do. So she's going to bring, forget his Tom will be at the next meeting, and he will learn the committee and take minutes. So MS9, MS10, and we reviewed the Bridgman Fund, which is doing quite well, and there will be a reach out to the school superintendent's office to say, hey, don't forget, you've got this source of funding to enhance the school program. And it's important for the community to know that it's for K through 6th grade. So teachers, parents, and community members, as long as it's above and beyond what your taxpayer dollar would spend. A lot of amazing things have been done with this Bridgman Fund, including community gardens, playground equipment that's like above and beyond what is normal, programming that happens in the school. So if there are ideas out there, so it goes through the school board, but there's allocations there. They will be coming. I think we had agreed that they would come in the fall and just give an update in terms of where they are and what we're expecting in terms of reset funds and what will be available for spending. So more on that. So that's the committees that.
Okay, thank you. Been busy. All right. Hanover Finance Committee met on September 5th. So just last week, Ellen attended as well, although the agenda was primarily around the schools. We were looking at the budget guidelines and audit documents for the Hanover and Dresden school districts and budget calendar. So that was all kind of maybe interesting as something that we could think about, to the extent that it's an example for the select board to also think about in terms of documents and process. There's a meeting of the Trescott Company Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock. A little different time and venue. It's at the Howe Library. Rob, you're going to be there, right? And, so you're looking like it's the first you're hearing of it.
Maybe I'm slightly off base, but I thought it was potentially in conflict with Tuesday night, thinking it was a planning board night. And unfortunately, I'll need to get one of my staff to cover the Conservation Commission meeting because they meet here Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of conflicts.
So,
So finance and conservation are meeting this year?
No, Trescott
Trescott.
meets at the library,
Yeah.
and Conservation Commission meets.
Cloning.
And we have to vote as a select board to appoint Ron.
To the trust.
we never did that.
We could do it right now.
Oh.
I move that we have. Rob, can you craft it? I can't do it anymore.
We appoint Rob to serve on the
The shareholder, we
Yes.
appoint,
Rob is a
I
shareholder.
move that we appoint Rob Hausman as a shareholder to the Trescott board to represent the town of Hanover. I think that's reasonable, without your help, Rob.
I second.
Well done.
I second
Jenny
that.
seconds, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, terrific.
Bless you.
And we'll have a new member from the Dartmouth side as well.
Where did Emma go? She's gone.
She is.
Is it NYU, Chief of Staff for the President?
Interesting.
Okay. Other committees?
Nothing to report, as you just mentioned, Trescott's Wednesday, Conservation Commission is the exact same time on Wednesday. There you go.
Okay, all right. Jenny?
The planning board has been meeting, lots of exciting things happening as, you know, Dartmouth is planning out their geo exchange, they're also improving things. Unrelated to the geo exchange, they're improving the Thompson Ice Arena so the other team will have an accessible entrance in the driveway between the field house and the Thompson Ice Arena won't be as crazy down and up. So that's exciting. And then they've been working on updating the site plan regulations. A lot of discussions there. Hanover Bike Walk has a bunch, you know, the fall is a big walk time. But we're also adding a bike skills rodeo because it was sort of a lot of rain in the spring and there was a fear that kids need some skills. So there'll be a bike rodeo Sunday, September 29th from 12 to 2 p.m. This is right after, the town's having Fall Fest. Everyone should go to Fall Fest, Friday, September 27th. I think we're gonna have, Parks and Rec will have a touch truck that's 4 to 6 p.m. And a lot of, you know, committees and
What's the time on that, Jen?
it's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So late afternoon, early evening, September 27th at Stores Pond.
Thank you.
And then Walk to School Day is Wednesday, October 9th. People will start walking and rolling around 7 a.m. The big crowds come around 7:30. You know, if you're driving, be careful because there'll be more walkers than normal. And then we have some bike road safety classes. This is kind of exciting. We have American League of Bicyclists teacher, and this was organized by the Upper Valley E-Bike Alliance in conjunction with Parks and Rec. But they'll be part of an in-class classroom, but a lot of it will be on the road. And there's 2 different rides. So anybody you know who wants to brush up on their skills and know how to navigate intersections right here in Hanover, they're gonna help people. There's a loop from like Garapay down into town, another loop going down over the bridge and back up Old Tough Drive. So you actually have an opportunity to go with somebody to see the best way to ride in a safe position. So that's Saturday, September 28th, and Saturday, October 26th, and Parks and Rec has that posted. And then we come to the 2 letters. One is Hanover Bike Walk recommends pursuing, trying to put a consistent speed limit on West Wheelock in the main Wheelock district, with the idea that this is going to be a place that already has a lot of walking and biking, and it should be this big multimodal district. Right now, as you come into Hanover, we have the 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted, then it turns to 30 miles an hour, and then a little bit later, it turns to 25 miles an hour, and then on the way down, it's 25 miles an hour, and then you get past Mass Row, it turns to 30 miles an hour, the rest of the way down the hill. And the idea is this would take it a step in the direction of making it more like walkable community, to have sort of the right size speed limit and the right sign that like, oh, people do move around here.
It actually should, I would go so far as it should be the same when you come in on 120 and the same when you come in 10. It's crazy that you cross the Hanover from Lub into Hanover and it says, if it's not marked as 25, and then 50 meters, if that, maybe 50 feet, it says 30
We
miles
literally
per
ran
hour.
out of time to discuss that, but a lot of people in the committee brought that up when we brought up the wheel lock. So that was the next one, and there's a number of residences along Lebanon who are very interested in that also being sort of the right kind of speed limit for where a lot of people live and walk and
Well,
being
it's-
able to get to and from.
It's our urban
wherever hot.
compact, it
Yeah.
should be.
So
So
there
What's
needs
the
to be a
process?
process.
here's a process. We need to do an analysis, provide that analysis and a recommendation to the board. And with your consent, we'll start that process.
I move that you start that process. To pursue 25 mile an hour within the urban context. Did you say another place other than on Lebanon?
I said
South
coming in, coming
Oh,
down the
coming down
hill,
South Main.
on South Main, coming in
Wholeheartedly, I get
120.
complaints about that almost daily.
And coming up
because
the hill.
That's where I live, and people tell me about it. And then West Wheelock.
Right.
That's a motion. All right, is there a second to that motion?
Sure.
Joanna seconds. Discussion. Ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the second letter is kind of a challenge, and this came out of discussion. There's a woman who wrote a book called When Driving is Not an Option, and she's been doing a book tour. And she went and spoke in front of America Walks, but America Walks has started this program a couple of years ago to try to gain empathy with people who don't have the option to drive. And the challenge is to do a week without driving. It doesn't mean you can't get in a car, and you can't use a taxi, not that we have taxis here, or you can't use a bus. But the idea that if you go through that experience of what it's like to not have the ability to drive. And so that's the challenge. We talked about it today, and we thought we would put it up to the select board. I accepted this challenge, and I signed up. But the idea was that we would ask their elected officials if they would do this.
What are you asking for?
To live with a week without.
But no, I mean, like, what are you asking for? Like people to sign up for the challenge or us to endorse it?
Hanover Bike Walk is asking us 5 to take on this challenge.
As individuals, not as,
Yeah, as elected officials.
okay. I'm confused, Jenny. I don't know what you want.
Oh, because you as an individual, because you are an elected official. Is that, sorry, I was,
That's easy.
does that make sense?
Sounds like fun.
Okay. All right.
So you're considering,
I'll do it.
Athos is down. There's a
I'll
place to
try.
sign
I
up.
might be going away that weekend, so it might be hard for me.
Right, you just need to ask someone to drive you and
Yeah,
then
that's
take
true.
transportation.
Can you take my bike?
Yeah, you can take your bike.
I don't have an e-bike to go 100 miles.
Lend you one.
I'm
Oh, no,
not-
after
my
the-
car barely makes
I have
100
4.
miles, I learned. And it's it's an electric bike.
Your lunch or-
It feels
I
like an
haven't
electric
gotten
bike.
her on an e-bike. It's one of my families.
So that means we're gonna have to go to the DPW tour without driving.
No, someone can drive.
Someone can drive you, or you could
Can we
borrow.
get picked up in one of the big dump trucks?
You could
Yes.
borrow.
That's really
my
efficient.
e-bike.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is the blue route stops here and in Buck Road.
But then you have to cross the street and all of the elected officials could get run over in that bus crossing.
I have done it on occasion.
Nancy,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I create an addendum to the planning board report?
oh, yes.
Please. Yes. Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Still Nancy Carter, still Barrett Road in Hanover. Two things. One of the reasons, among the reasons why the hockey rink is getting renovated, is to create a parity for the women's hockey team, because right now they have to walk downstairs in their skates to get to ice surface. They're going to have, what's going to happen is that they are going to have what is now the visitors' locker room, and a new locker room is being created for visitors, the end of which is that nobody walks downstairs in skates. It's one of the comments about renovations in the rink. And another comment that the college, another project that the college brought up that everybody in town will see is that as the pumps start to work on for the geo-exchange project on the field right behind the co-op here in town, then the soccer program that is there, not for games but for all practices, is going to be moved to the soccer area, practice area across from Reservoir Road and the Reservoir Road Co-op. Right now, you're all used to seeing it as a Fort Sayre like practice area and so forth. That portion, particularly the back portion, is there. Fill is going to come in. It's going to be flattened, and most importantly, you're going to see very tall poles. We talked about padding the poles so that soccer players don't, run into them, or Fort Sayre skiers don't go awry and run into poles. But they have specific down lights that will light only the field, so that the folks who live in the vicinity, will not be bothered. And they are on timers, and also timers which the coaches can control. So that's going to be a project that everyone will see, and people will want to know, hey, what's going on? And the planning board gave full permission for that as a go-ahead.
So is that it's a temporary location?
Yes, but it'll be temporary for a long time, because that geo-exchange program is going to be large and take a while. And then, of course, the fields that they are tearing up behind, or drilling through, I should say, behind the Hanover Co-op, then have to be all regraded and reseeded. So they're not giving a specific, they hope for a 2-year period, but there are no promises.
So the field will be upgraded too.
Oh,
It'll be
yes.
upgraded, it'll be,
Yeah, you'll get upgraded
like,
fields.
so guarantee will be a proper soccer pitch that a varsity team can practice on.
Right.
So it's time to get your little kids out
Yeah.
to,
And the lighting
Learn
is
how
just
to do it.
temporary while the geo exchange is going on?
yeah, the lighting's only when the Dartmouth is practicing, the teams are practicing.
But there again,
It's not
there's
permanent
no-
poles.
The possibility of permanent poles, I mean, people were talking about, well, why dig all the way down and create, concrete stanchions for these poles when you don't know what you're putting a lot of money, time, and effort into this really nice soccer field, and you don't really know what the future of that field could be for the town, for the college, whatever. So people are kind of taking away. In other words, no promises.
I think the question was the approval as submitted by the college and approved by the planning board had temporary lights.
Right. That was the
You got shades.
phrase used.
I've got shades.
Just
I've got shades.
Just good.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
usually in bed at 9. I'm usually still awake. At least tonight I am.
The active word is nothing is as permanent as change.
Yeah, I'm gonna be surprised if parents aren't asking for the lights to be on so their kids can practice soccer in the fall
Yeah, but
when Dartmouth's not practicing.
Dartmouth won't let them.
We have no.
Thank you, Nancy, for that update, that additional update on planning. Okay. All right, anything else? No. Okay, all right, so we do have need for a non-public. Are there any other items that we need to cover?
Not this time.
No? Okay, so we will adjourn, but we need, we want to adjourn. We will move into non-public, and for which we need a motion to, I'll make it, move into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91(3)(2), A, B, D, E, and L.
Second.
Okay,
Roll call.
roll call.
Aye.
Whitcomb, yes.
Callahan, aye.
Gracias, yes.
Cameron, yes?
We are moved into non-public. Nancy,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, speaking